Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for being here. We are so excited. So I'm PJ Jackson. I am the Chief Transformation Officer at Founders Compass, and I am so excited for everyone to be here today. So let's make sure we've got some folks signing in there. I know it's top of the hour, so I always like to ask, where is everybody streaming in from? So I'm in Virginia, and I'm in the Shenandoah Mountains. It's beautiful here. I'd love to see where everybody else is signing in from. All right. That's okay. Sounds great. All right. This is wonderful. I can start seeing everybody. This is great. All right. Wonderful. I'm so excited to have everybody here. And we know it's the birthday of the man of honor today. So I'm really, really excited to get started. It's my honor to be your host today and to take you through the journey of understanding what makes founders break. So I'm super excited to welcome Phil Neal. So I've known Phil for a while. He's very well known in the entrepreneurial community in EO, and he's someone that can navigate real high-stake decisions with clarity. I think his superpower is actually the ability to transform high-risk decision-making into breakthrough opportunities. That is really where he shines. And that's why we're all here today, to understand this journey. Phil pivoted from a $0 to $70 million adventure. He had everything it took to be successful and exit. And on that journey, he learned the root cause of what make founder startups break. And that is huge when it comes to understanding our inner journey and what makes us break. He understands the root cause. He's going to share it with us today. He is now leading a movement. You're here today to be part of that movement, to understand why founders break. So his goal is to build founders the world doesn't break. He's a tech investor and a growth strategist, and I'm so proud to call him the CEO of Founders Compass. Please join me in welcoming the birthday boy to the stage, Phil Neal.
Great. Can everyone see and hear me? I have a confession to make. I've been sick all week, but this morning for my birthday, I almost got all my voice back. So shouldn't be too terrible. I apologize if it's a bit shaky, but it is as good as it gets for today. And so I'm very excited. I got a special tool for you. Some of you might know I'm a French Canadian, so it has a little bit to do with my cold. It's really cold outside lately, but I'm gonna keep you on your toes with my French accent. So if you think I've said buffet, no, I meant budget. So pay attention. I'm gonna do my best, and we have a huge agenda today that's gonna be very exciting. It's really the culmination of a lot of the lessons I've gained along my journey. Thank you, PJ, for the great intro. And to get us started, I think I want to start with a little story. So the story of when I sold my business and invested in a new venture. So in 2021, like PJ mentioned, I sold my business and I discovered this new technology company in the nanotechnology industry, at advanced material space. And I fell in love with it because it was not only a high potential company, but it was also a high potential impact company. And that was always very important to me. So when I invested in them, I didn't just invest, I really went all in and I really pulled my soul into it. I wanted it to be successful. I became a full-fledged co-founder. And for more than 2 years, we worked super hard trying to move from a prototype to a product market fit. And that journey was very hard because it was just after COVID and our material was in the air purification industry. So logically, I thought people have gone through a pandemic. They're going to want to have better indoor air quality. Turns out they were waiting for standards to be updated by the authorities. And so there was very, very little receptiveness for new technologies. 2 years later, we pivoted the model and eventually found product market fit in the niche market. We went from an HVAC air purifier to a niche component solution. And I got back from a business trip with two things. On one hand, I had a letter of intent worth hundreds of millions. And on the other end, I had dozens of leads wanting samples. I thought we were about to scale. But then what happened is everything stopped. My technical partners burnt out and quit. We couldn't produce samples again. We couldn't act on any of these leads. So the lab went dark and the business failed. You see, what happened is we had been running for so long without checking on ourselves. And as founders, we all carry this inner treasure and strength of being hungry, hungry for success, hungry for growth, hungry to be right, hungry to be worthy of the vision that we're chasing. But sometimes this hunger backfires and we push for too long. So I got a question for you guys. On a scale to 1 to 10, how much have you been powering through 2025? Please answer in the comments. Sorry. It's my first live. So just write 1 to 10, how much you've been just hustling yourself, sprinting during the whole year. Don't be shy. I know you guys have probably other things you're doing at the same time. I don't see any numbers yet. I see a 7. Good job, Edgar. Good. 9, 7, 7 again. Great. Well, I'm not surprised. Entrepreneurship is hard. We do have to have activation energy when we're doing a venture. But what about your partners, your employees? Have they been sprinting all year? Have they been operating at a 9, a 7, a 10 all year? So this is the kind of conversation that would have saved my business, because we're often distracted by business urgencies and we react to them with actions. And we don't feel at one point that we can actually pause and recalibrate ourselves. We just see the next urgency, the next urgency, the next constraint all the time. And so if we're not careful, that starts to burn us. And it also what happened to me. So after my partners burnt out and quit, I did what you guys did. I went all in. I started to restructure the company. And for 6 months, I was just working my ass off, restructuring, finding a new technical partners, finding a new partnership, saving the few customers that were very important, the ones from the letter of intent. And then just as I was about to be done with that, I got a phone call. And to put some context, when I sold my business, it was a 2-time exit, a little money up front, but most of it was when we sold the inventory. And we had a partnership. So after 2 years, I thought, yeah, that's pretty much the time. I should, it should be the good news that the products are sold and then I'm going to get the rest of my exit. But that's not also what happened. Hey, Phil, I got a bad news. Not only have we not sold the inventory, but while it was in a transition warehouse, the warehouse burned and I forgot to insure. That was my breaking point. I did not feel like I had the capacity anymore to win back the growth I had lost. Hustling only works when luck is on our side. If we're not mindful of our inner operating system as founders and how we react to what I'm about to teach you, which I call the shadow of entrepreneurship, we will eventually go past our limit and we'll never know before it happens. So as founders, we all also often live outside our comfort zone. So we're way more vulnerable to that. And we think that by doing stuff, protect ourselves from being unlucky or lucky. But the truth is, if you are doing entrepreneurship long enough, that plays a huge role. And the only thing you can really do to protect yourself is to make sure you sustain decision quality under pressure. That requires self-awareness. That requires skills. It's not just mindset. I had a huge growth mindset. And when everything was crumbling around me, that growth mindset was becoming a burden in many ways because everything felt like it was my fault. I wasn't enough. I should have grown more. And there's always that gap that you see. So I want to pause here and invite you to reflect, because if there's one thing I've learned when battling constant uncertainty, is that when we pause and reflect on our current inner voice, that's where we get the clues. And so let's take a step back, and I'll ask you a question. It's going to pop up on screen. Are you ready? So if a judge was following you around in 2025 and he was asked to describe how you showed up in only one word, how would you say you show up as a founder? The one word that someone external would describe you as a founder, how you showed up as a founder in one word. Please write it in the comment. I see a 10, Jesus, but I'm looking for words. What's the one word that would describe how you showed up this year as a founder, guys? If a judge was forcing a judgment on you. Take a few minutes to think about that. Collaboration, lack of clarity, confusion, perseverance. So I see, I guess, supportive, intentional, ambitious, patience. Good. Well, that's great. A lot of positive words here. I don't know. I see LinkedIn user. I don't know who that is, but I'm sure. Driven. That's great. But now let's flip the question. Let's forget about the judge, the external judge. Let's look at yourself as a judge. And so we're typically very hard on ourselves. We put words into a judge's mouth often that are very severe, and we have to find our self-compassion. But the gap that we see between how we showed up and how we wanted to show up is our opportunity to grow, right? And so if instead of the judge asking you that question, imagine that everything went perfectly for you in 2025. What word would you wish this judge would have said instead of the word you said? And maybe you're super happy with how things went and you want 2026 to be the same. But if you felt like the judge had a negative or a suboptimal evaluation of your year, what would be the word you would like him to say, let's say next year, about you? Yeah, resilient but tired. Feel you, Christina. Ryan, I can tell you've been driven. I know you. So you want to show up as passionate, Carl. That's great. A visionary, Christina. Empathic. Empowering. Great. So I'll pass it to PJ for a quick exercise, a quick pause in the craziness of the last month of the year. And we're going to look within us to see what kind of answers we can find before we tackle what the shadow actually is and how it affects us as founders. So I'm passing it again to you, PJ.
Thanks, Phil. Okay, everybody. You've had some questions in the chat. You've been asked to think about the past, if it was a judge, and what you would want the past to be like. But I'm going to ask you to reset. Remember how Phil said that the best way to handle uncertainty is to pause. So what I'd like you to do is take everything out of your hands, take anything off your lap. If you're eating lunch, put it to the side and just sit with your feet grounded. Okay. And we're just going to do a breath exercise. Now, this is an easy exercise. Even the Navy SEALs do box breathing, right? And you don't need to so much understand the numbers of breath count, but it's a breathe in, hold, and breathe out. And this takes our nervous system and relaxes it. Okay, so let's just all do that together a couple times. So you're going to breathe in, hold for a couple of seconds, and breathe out. So let's try that together. Do it again. Breathe in, hold, and breathe out. Now I invite you to just shut your eyes and listen to my voice for a moment. If you look forward into 2026, after reflecting on 2025, in 2026, how do you want to handle pressure? How do you want to make decisions? From reactivity or from clarity? How do you want to show up to lead others? How do you want to make 2026 unbreakable? What you are thinking and what you are identifying isn't fate. You have to make the choice. You have to step in to your own future and build a founder that doesn't break. Okay, let's take a deep breath in, hold it, and let it all out. Okay, I invite you to open your eyes again. Thank you for trusting me with that activity. Sometimes when I looked in the chat, resilient, sometimes being resilient in the moment is just pausing and doing a breath exercise and then re-engaging. So let me pass it back over to Phil.
Thank you, PJ. I'm glad you're here. So that felt nice, at least for me. I really appreciated that. And I want to take you now to the root cause of startup failure. And it is what I call the shadow of entrepreneurship. And so to help you understand the shadow, let's think about an image. Okay, I know there's a lot of words here. Just bear with me. I'm going to walk you through them one at a time. So imagine that your founder journey is like crossing the ocean. Like you are at the beach and you see the island you want to get to, your vision for your business. So you get on your boat, your little business, you go on the water. Well, there's one thing that I can guarantee. You're not going to be navigating on a sunny day all day long, all week long, all journey long. You're going to face storms. And the shadow is difficult because there's no exoneration from it. It is a storm that passes and casts its shadow on your journey. And if you don't know how to see it coming and you don't know how to navigate it, then you're going to lose sight of your island. And eventually that can also break you. It is the root cause, because when you're in the shadow and you start losing the vision you had, the certainty you have, you become reactive and you lose decision quality. And this is what is the first domino of startup failure. So what is the shadow? It's, of course, not about weather. It is about the internal weather. It is 3 emotions that you need to pay attention for, that if left unchecked, will become more and more overwhelming. The first one is uncertainty. This is, of course, the most frequent, because founders live on the lining of a coin, trying to bridge between 2 realities, always outside their comfort zone, always learning, always growing, always trying to show people what could be in the form of the action they courageously take. But because they're also always outside their comfort zone, we never fully know what we're doing all the time. And so uncertainty creeps in at different levels. It is a spectrum of intensity. Imagine you have a business plan, you go to market. Well, the market's gonna laugh at it, right? No business survives, and no plan survives in the main encounter, as they as they say. So that creates uncertainty. You're wondering, what should I do then? That's negative feedback. And then you start confusing a founder, a human issue, with a business problem. So you start looking for a business solution to something that is fundamentally a human and founder problem and emotion. If you want to navigate uncertainty well, you need to address the feeling of it first, because often uncertainty requires stillness. Because when you're under uncertainty, your nervous system is triggered. It will offer you relief in the form of a decision. And if you're only looking at the business, you're going to be jumping from one business advice to the other, one business advice to the other, another YouTube course, another ChatGPT prompt. It's always going to be the case until it works so badly that you fall into fear. So fear, if uncertainty requires a decision for relief, fear requires action. It's kind of a fight or flight. You can be frozen, that's your action, or you can just be overly reactive, which is often more the case as founder. And so the patterns that you have not taken the time to recognize it within yourself, how you actually think, will be stronger. And they will hide behind the fact that motion looks like momentum, but it really isn't. When you decided, one moment. Yeah, I was almost losing my voice. I had to take a break. But when you decide the direction of your business from a place of calm, proactively, and you don't, and then you let uncertainty pulls you into decision, and then fear takes over, you're reacting even more intensely. And for me, when I was doing decision under the fear of failure, when my business was not finding product market fit, I wasn't aware that my cognitive default mode was creative. So I was always looking for more ideas, more ideas, more ideas. My second pattern was relationship. I should hire someone to fix that for me. I should get a consultant, advisors. I should build a stronger advisory board. I should get a partnership. All right, just me reacting instead of pausing and actually thinking about it and seeing my patterns and disrupting them with cognitive agility. So it's not about mindset. It's really about having the skills to take back control of our nervous system and then break decision loops that we typically fall into. The last one is unworthiness. So if you stay too long in fear, then you start looking for a reason. And the reason often falls on us. We blame ourselves. Maybe I'm the problem. Who was I to think I would compete with Google? It starts sounding like we should not have been chosen to be a founder in the first place. And that narrative leads to an even worse outcome. It leads to self-sabotage often, or trying to burn out, frankly. All right, so this matters because if you don't see the shadow coming in with uncertainty, fear, and unworthiness, and another word for unworthiness is imposter syndrome. And we all have it, unless some might not have it, but a lot of founders have it, and a lot of leaders, in fact, in general, have it because we're outside our comfort zone, right? And it's on us. But it is a root cause of failure because this is really what triggers us into reactivity and our patterns that we often haven't taken the time to really see for ourselves. So let's do another poll and keeping you very engaged. So out of the three, which part of it challenged you the most right now? Are you mostly under uncertainty? You don't know what to do. Do you fear of failure, fear of losing face, fear of not being enough, judgment? Or do you feel like you're an imposter right now? Or maybe you're deep in the shadow when you're being overwhelmed by all three. So please take a moment and share with us in the chat. I see an imposter syndrome, uncertainty. You can say none if everything's cool. It is a storm. It passes. It comes back. The only guarantee is it will come back. I know this is more vulnerable. Fear. Thank you, Annalie. Fear, Shani. Look at how you're deciding. Are you optimizing for survival, or are you actually being proactive? Fear is what broke my partners. We were reacting so much to every feedback we were getting. And this is not how we pivoted. We pivoted when we paused. We thought, yeah, uncertainty. Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate your sharing. So now what's the solution, right? I would say all three. Sylvain. Oh, sorry, I'm reading the comments. Cool, thank you so much. So how do you fix that? Well, I've said it a little bit. You fix it by, first of all, having the vocabulary. That's why I think it's so important. There's a ton of emotion that we need to master, as human, but as founder, these three are the one you should pay attention to. You should pay attention when they arise in patterns that you see yourself going back over and over. If you keep facing the same issues, it means you're likely reacting and pushing yourself into the same kind of decisions that will lead to the same kind of outcome. But you cannot think your way through it. There's three layers to us. There's the operation, there's the founder skills, the founder journey. In between is where you make your decisions. And under the founder is the human, your alignment, your values, your life, your energy, your vitality. If you feel fear, you need to address the body first. That's why I had you guys do the breathing exercise. Because if you don't take the time to pause and refine your center, you're never going to find clarity. I had to have my warehouse fire burn with everything around me before I finally gave myself permission to watch the world burn for a while. As founder, we're always fighting fires. We're firefighters. We think that there's a bunch of urgencies everywhere, but I challenge you to let some of them burn for a couple days and see if the world ends. Because in a world with AI, in a world with information, in a world with a ton of opinions about everything, we have to remember we're still in the founder journey, and it is as much of a business game as a hero journey. It is our journey. We have to proactively navigate it. And so once we calm ourselves and we learn to see and have the tools to navigate these emotions and think proactively and attune with our intuition, we can go from reactive to calm. We can find clarity instead of doubt. Instead of wavering all the time, we can find conviction. And instead of burning, we can find our cadence. Sprinting instead of doing a marathon. I think that's the right word in English as well. Running through a marathon versus sprinting for a real sprint, 400-meter dash. So all that to say, I invite you to choose yourself in 2026 and take this seriously and really think about how you show up as a founder. I've got a few gifts for you. PJ is going to let you know. I've been spending the last 2 years looking at what I thought was the root cause. What is the root cause of my failures and my successes? And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we are not equipped enough with the solution at the crossroad of the human and the business. There's self-help out there that will show you how to meditate, that's going to give you therapy, that's going to show you how to be an actualized, enlightened human. But you still have decisions to make as a founder. You cannot be enlightened in your home. You have a business to run. And so when you rub it against reality, it's not enough. It's just managing the symptoms. Then you have business coach. They're going to give you a business answer. And as I said, if you don't address the shadow first, you're just going to jump from one to the other. So pause, during the holidays and really take a look at your inner operating system. And yeah, that's what I had for you guys today. I hope you find it valuable. We're going to try to do it more if you guys liked it. And thank you for showing up and choosing to be vulnerable today and getting into that realm, that uncomfortable new realm of the founder journey that we don't often talk enough about. Thank you, guys.